Hello everyone. Oh my god, I completely destroyed my camera. Oh, there we go. Welcome to a World of Warcraft video where I'm going to be going over, once again, Discipline Priest. This isn't necessarily going to be my beginner's guide video where I go extremely in-depth, but I will be going over the changes coming with Shadowlands to the core class and also the spec itself to just kind of give you an idea of how I have been reacting to it as a casual World of Warcraft player. If you are interested for a guide, I do have I said guide so strangely, but I do have a video on that, which I will link up in the top right corner, or that you can find somewhere else on my channel. But I gotta say right off the bat, Shadowlands Discipline Priest doesn't seem super different. There are some, changes, of course, across all classes, as is tradition with expansions. But the fundamentals of how you play and how you will approach this specialization are relatively the same as it was in Battle for Azeroth, I believe, is where I made that video and when I made that video. But for the sake of this, I'm going to be going over some of the changes and the overall impressions that I'm getting from the priest. And in order to do this, we shall go over here. So now we're by the training dummies. We have some allies in the area, just in case if we need to showcase some atonement skills or healing and so on and so forth. So for this video, I'm going to be touching on the skills that are new and or prominent with all the changes kept in mind. So first and foremost, you will notice that you have Mind Blast now. Mind Blast used to be a Shadow Priest only skill, or rather I should say spell to be more appropriate, but it was given to Discipline Priest. I think they might be available to Holy, I'm not too sure, I don't think so though, but it's definitely available on Discipline Priest. Mind Blast is just going to be a wonderful filler spell, to spike up damage. It does have a cooldown, so whenever it's up, you kind of just pop it. There's not much more thought process that goes into it, other than making sure that you have atonement on people. And because it is quite a large heal, make sure you have that atonement up on crucial allies to get that nice healing. Smite's the same. You're pretty much just going to be spamming Smite and Penance off cooldown. And now Mind Blast can be casted off cooldown. But there's also that somewhat strategic play where it is a stronger hit, so you might get more healing out of it. But for the most part, it's pretty brainless. You just use it to get the healing and the damage. Purge the Wicked is the same. Power of Solace is the same. Everything is pretty much the same. However, there is now a skill in the same vein as Shadow Word. Not Shadow Word, but Mind Blast is Shadow Word Death, which used to be a Shadow Priest specific ability, but it is now available on Discipline Priests. And it is a Word of Dark binding that inflicts some shadow damage to the target. If the target is not killed by Shadow Word Death, the caster takes damage equal to the damage inflicted upon the target. Damage is increased by 150% to targets below 20% health. This does seem to be like a very interesting skill in terms of its trade-off, because you are going to be taking damage if you don't kill the target. Now, with the damage increase, I don't think that the damage should be replicated back to you if you do not, if you are in fact below 20% health, because I feel like it's so normal for people to be using Shadow Word Death on targets below 20% health as an execution ability. But in PvE, you're going to be just doing so much more damage to yourself that it doesn't really make sense. It does come on a delay, which is useful in part, but it is quite punishing, especially with that 150% increase. It already took me to half health, and that's quite concerning. So as a healer and as a Discipline Priest, it's definitely an interesting ability with a very interesting effect, but I don't know if I'm necessarily behind the reflecting damage back to you aspect, so long as they're below 20%. If they're above 20%, like if someone's trying to use this as an opener, I'd be much more worried. And I also don't like that it does not trigger atonement. If you're going to have this ability be so high risk, high reward in terms of pacing yourself, and even like executing it properly at the very last minute, I think it's useful to have this be based in atonement. I don't know why it's not. It could be kind of like that interesting ritualistic sacrificing healing playstyle, where someone could have an entire healing build revolving around Shadow Word Death, where they will apply atonement to people, and then kind of gauge their own health at the same time and managing it. So it's very interesting in terms of its accessibility to the class, but I don't think it's going to be very useful to Discipline Priests as a whole. And, you know, it could just be more for PvE sakes, but still the reflection, you know, it's a little weird. Let me just read this. If the target is not killed. So if the target is killed, you'll be fine. To go into the spell book, just to point out a couple things. We have Desperate Prayer back, which is nice. Though I don't really use Desperate Prayer too often. I only ever used it on Holy Priests, but I know, of course, it's the Discipline Priest now. But even when it was Holy, and I would dabble with Holy, I wouldn't use this super often. But, you know, now that it's more accessible across more specializations, you might be using it more. We have Dispel Magic, we have Leap of Faith, yada yada yada, Mind Control, Mind Vision. There's some more utility abilities and Shackle Undead. Nothing to really write home about in general combat experiences. They might come in handy in very niche combat experiences. Now to the discipline specialization itself. We gain Mass Resurrection back, which will be nice. I don't think I need to really put it on my bar right now because it's just Mass Resurrection. It's kind of a niche ability. And we also get Mind Seer. This is a little bit more interesting in terms of its AoE potential. And just the general ability to inflict AoE damage. And it does, I am assuming, we can test it right now, that it will actually affect atonement. It does. I am getting healed over time. So if you have a lot of enemies that you're fighting and you just want to Mind Seer someone, go right ahead. You could be getting some decent chunks of heals, and quite honestly, I really want to put it on my bar, but maybe I'll put it where Resurrection is. Because, you know, if I ever need to resurrect someone or Mass Resurrect someone, I'll just go to my spellbook. I really like only having 2 bars. But there are so many abilities now, I might have to actually slot the other one. So those are the basic spells. Now I'm going to talk about the traits. Not the traits, I apologize, the talents. We still get Castigation, Twist of Faith, and Schism. I actually should probably use Schism more often. But I actually just really like Castigation. It's just a fun passive ability. Body and Soul, or you could use Angelic Feather in most PvE scenarios. Shield Discipline or Power Word Solace for the most part. Power Word Solace is much more reliable as it's damaging, which will apply for atonement healing and so on and so forth. Shining Force, I use that. This is where the 40 to 50 talents become a little bit more interesting. I mean, minus 45 in my opinion. But Sins of the Many is a returning talent where your damage is increased up to 12%, diminishing for each ally affected by atonement. This is helping in terms of single target healing, which is nice in dungeons. Though we also have Contrition now, which I don't think is strong enough to compete with these two. Maybe in PvP, perhaps. But when you heal with Penance, everyone with your Atonement is healed for 59. In terms of the healing numbers, I don't know if it's strong enough to really count for much. Because I also think Shadow Covenant is really cool and interesting and definitely has a place now with its rework. So Shadow Covenant, make a shadowy pact, healing the target and 4 other injured allies within 30 yards. Your shadow spells deal 25% increased damage and healing, but you cannot cast holy spells. So this means you're bound to using Mind Seer, Mind Blast, and Shadow Word Death. Though you don't really want to be using Shadow Word Death because you're not going to be healing via that. So Shadow Covenant, boom. And then you're stuck using Mind Seer for the most part, and Mind Blast for a decent amount, if I do say so myself. So if you're going to need emergency heals while you use Shadow Covenant, you're only going to be relegated to Shadow Mend, which is very strong, mind you. But there is a slight downside of, you take damage over a total. So just keep that in mind. But for the most part, I love Shadow Covenant in terms of its changes. It no longer replaces Power Word Radiance, so you can use this more flexibly. I actually might make a build or like play around with Shadow Covenant, maybe in PvP, or maybe I'll take it in PvE. I don't know. I'll have to see. 45, I take Purge the Wicked because, you can maybe take Divine Star and Halo in some scenarios, especially with very large arenas. If you need to get a lot of people at the same time, Halo would work really well. As for the 50 tier, we have Lenience. Atonement reduces damage taken by 3%. This honestly feels like a tier 15 talent. It's so passive, and I don't know, it's nice, and it could be effective because it's just a flat damage reduction, bolstering of defenses. But still, it's like, compared to these two, it seems rather weak, but I know it can be pretty impactful. But that's my opinion on Lenience. It's okay if you want to play it more passive and not deal with cooldowns. Next up, we have Spirit Shell. This replaces Rapture. For 10 seconds, Penance, Power Word Radiance, and Atonement create absorb shields instead of healing. Now, I gotta say, I'm very interested in Spirit Shell for the sake of it being a much more active form of damage mitigation instead of Lenience, where it's just Atonement reduces damage. This is, you are building shields up on people. So we're gonna cast Spirit Shell, pop a shield on me, and then heal Vicar for some Atonement. So do this, pop that, and then we can pop another shield on her, and then we can start damaging. And now we're gonna start creating shields on ourselves. Or it only lasts for a short duration, but you can get some decent shields if you, of course, Radiance, pop a couple shields on people. You'll get enough Atonement, and then just start attacking people to gain that barrier. It's a much more active form of damage mitigation, and a callback to Spirit Shell, which used to be a very strong shield. They also got rid of, I think, Power Word Barrier? No, it's not Barrier. What was that ability that everybody was spamming in Warlords of Draenor? It was like a really overpowered shield that is actually a really cool ability, and I wouldn't mind them bringing it back, but as a cooldown. Not like something that's spammable, but like a really powerful shield on like a 30-second cooldown that you can use every 30 seconds. But that's Spirit Shell. I actually really like it. A 1-minute cooldown, so not super long, but it might be felt in more fast-paced scenarios. Next up, Evangelism. I was about to say Evangelion. Evangelism extends the duration of all your active atonement by 6 seconds. This is cool for mostly raiding scenarios, I would say. Let's just pop this here because we can put this back to Sins of the Many. But yeah, we kind of just pop atonement. Pop atonement. Can I pop atonement on you? No, I can't. So we'll wait until Atonement goes to relatively low levels, like 4 seconds left, 3, and then we'll pop this, and it extends it, so that means we're getting more duration on our Atonements. We don't necessarily have to be spamming and reapplying Atonement. We can just extend its duration, but it is an active ability. So I feel like this will be very useful in raiding scenarios over very long fights. It does have quite a lengthy cooldown of 1.5 minutes. So keep that in mind. For the sake of this video, let me go and get into a dungeon, show some gameplay, show my thoughts, and give you a little bit more of a first-hand experience with the updated Discipline Priest in Shadowlands. Here we go. Let's keep it going. Pop, pop, pop. Gonna Mind Blast. Hope that was some nice shielding going on there. That would be nice. Another heal, another shield. And then I'm gonna Mind Blast. Oh wait, no. We gotta keep going to the one that actually needs to get attacked. The one that we can actually do damage on. Oh, it's this one. Oh no, get off of me. Get off of me. I'm gonna actually bubble here. Because I feel like I'm being very pressured. 9. Let's get some atonement. Oh, I need to heal. Very difficult. Let me do this. Who's next? Who's next? Who's next? Okay, great. Do that. And then we're going to get some penance damage in. Some more heals. Another radiance. I'm actually going to Mind Blast. Oof, that was a bit struggle bus if I do say so myself. Let's go, let's go. Pop. I'm gonna Radiance, got that atonement going. Gonna use all my cooldowns pretty much. Gonna get as much barrier and shielding as possible. I can probably actually barrier again. Holy word, like my bubble. I mean, just for the sake of it, I'm gonna bubble. Because I can. Oh, this person's actually taking some damage. Where are they? Where are they? Where did they go? Did they get eaten? I'm confusion. But overall, I think I'm having a pretty okay time with healing. I might not be, I don't know. I think it just took me some time to get used to it. I think I still am getting used to it. Waycrest Manor. Hey, what did I get? A headdress. 78. Is this better? Oh, it is. It's much better. So we did that on heroic. It was nice. Nice to do. GG, that headpiece is awful. So everyone, in closing with my squid face, I think Shadowlands Discipline Priest is going to be very interesting. It's not going to be necessarily as barrier and shield focused as it was in Warlords of Draenor. However, I do think they've brought back a couple interesting abilities to help emphasize that shielding gameplay, like preventing damage before it actually occurs. Overall, it's still like the Discipline Priest that I know and love. I am kind of glad that they're bringing back that shielding aspect. I think that their two main functions of healing, be it shielding and atonement, really define the Discipline Priest, and I'm glad that they have not gotten rid of atonement. I think it's a really interesting method of healing. They could always add a couple new skills or spells or, you know, increases to atonement to allow you to damage a little bit more. But for the most part, Discipline Priest is pretty much the same with a couple added options for you to mess around with. But everyone, that is my video on the Shadowlands Discipline Priest. Thank you so much. If you would like to become a patron and get early access to videos, request videos, and get some personalized gameplay, game time with me, please hit me up on Patreon to help support me and the channel as a whole. But subscribe as well if you would just like to do that. Like and share. Comment down below what you think about the Shadowlands experience so far, be it with Discipline Priest, Priest in general, or any other class that is. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye everyone!